who was banished from the hero's party because they thought he was too weak, but he proves himself as the strongest knight. Gideon was the brother of the hero named Rudy, but her most trusted advisor, Ares, thought he wasn't good enough without his legendary sword. He isn't able to break through an ordinary barrier with just a regular sword, so Ares calls him useless, banishing him from the party, and he ends up changing his name to Red. After some time, we see him foraging in the woods, and he looks down to appreciate the view of the borderland region of Zoltan. We learn that the nation is bordered by the wall at the world's end to the north and east, while the rest is surrounded by marshland, making the nation difficult to access with no strategic value. This has slowed Zoltan's development, and only fugitives and hermits visit it, but Red thinks that it's perfect for him. He sells the herbs at the Adventurers Guild, where we meet the girl Megria, who buys it for 130 perils, as other adventurers in the guild ask him why he doesn't replace his bronze sword, thinking it's too weak. Red shares his dream to open an apothecary, saying he prefers the slow life. As he leaves, he meets the boy Tanta, who reveals that he's going to deliver lunch to his father. He tells Red that he will grow up to be a carpenter, so he can make a shop for him, even though he doesn't know what blessing he has. He inquires about Red's blessing, but Red brushes off his question, reminding him that he needs to deliver lunch to his father, so he takes his leave. We learn about divine blessings, which are powers granted as skills to people based on their class. Red's blessing is called Guide, and it doesn't have an innate skill, but it gives him access to common skills, including the survival skill, which prevents him from getting lost and helps him find medicinal herbs. He narrowly escapes an encounter with an owlbear, and he returns to the village, where he finds the people from the guild waiting for him. They tell him about the owlbear in the woods, and we learn that he's a D-ranked adventurer, when the adventurer Albert asks him to help guide them through the mountains so that they can defeat the owlbear. Red refuses to help them, saying he doesn't care about ranking up, so Albert leaves, while Megria tells Red to drop the herbs off at the guild. Red counts his money, realizing that it will take him half a year to save up enough to open his apothecary. He hears a knock on his door, and sees that it's Tanta's uncle, Gons, who tells him that Tanta has a serious illness called white eye. Red goes to check up on him, and he confirms the illness, saying it will put Tanta at risk of going blind in 24 hours, so they need to find medicine to treat him. Gons asks Red to help him, offering a reward, but Red notes that the mountains are off limits while the adventurers are there, and he would get kicked out of the guild if he's caught. But he tells Gons that he will help as a friend, telling him to keep it a secret from the guild. Red makes his way to the mountains, trying to avoid Albert's party, but he discovers that they used fire magic to fight the owlbear, and he's afraid that the herbs will perish. So he rushes to collect them, but he's confronted by the owlbear, realizing that it was able to escape from Albert's party. He dodges its attack, slashing it with his sword, and fleeing the scene. Albert eventually discovers the body of the monster, and notices the slash on its chest, realizing that it was attacked with a blunt weapon. Red delivers the herbs to Gons, and they cure Tanta's illness, so everyone thanks him. The doctor tells him that his apothecary will be beneficial to Zoltan, saying he will have plenty of orders for him once he opens it. Gons follows him outside, and Red asks for the reward he offered. After some time, we see an adventurer named Ritz, who is visiting the guild to fill in a job completion report. Megria tells her about the opening of Red's apothecary, and she takes an interest in him. We learn that Gons built the apothecary for Red, as a reward for saving Tanta. During the grand opening, Red overhears other adventurers talking about Rudy's recent victory against the Demon Lord's forces, and Red thinks his exit from the party was for the best. Gons asks him if he has any big dreams, so Red tells everyone that he has accomplished his dream by opening his shop, and that he wishes to enjoy his life. One day, we see Red wondering why he has no customers, thinking it's because of the bad weather, but Ritz enters his shop, recognizing him as Gideon, and they have tea together. We learn that Ritz is the second princess of the Duchy of Logurvia, and Red wonders why she left her princess duties. So she explains that she didn't want to get involved in politics because it was tearing her family apart. She wonders what he's doing in Zoltan, noting that his new name, Red, sounds similar to Ritz. So he admits that he took it off of her name, and she's flattered to hear this. After Red tells her how he was kicked out of the party, Ritz becomes angry, thinking it's unacceptable, because she knows that he tried his best to help the party. She asks him if Rudy and the others were okay with it, and he tells her that they seem to be doing good without him, because they appear to be winning the war. He brings Ritz a cup of tea, and she's impressed, saying it tastes better because he made it for her. In a flashback, we see Red's party in a bar, as they notice an old man harassing a hooded woman. She throws him to the ground, scaring him away, and we see that it's Ritz. She tells the hero's party that she doesn't need their help, saying she's the princess of Logurvia, and she takes her leave. Back in the present, Red tells Ritz that she wasn't honest with her feelings, but she claims that she could also be honest, and they reminisce about their time in the mountains, when they were gathering information. She tells him that she discovered strange tracks leading to a cabin, so they discuss what it might mean, thinking the Demon Lord's army has a hand in it. Red suggests working together, but Ritz refuses, saying Logurvia fights its battles, and wins every time without the hero's help. He respects her decision, offering her cookies, and she tastes it, saying it tastes great. Ritz argues that she was being honest when she said the cookies were delicious, but Red thinks that she wasn't truly honest with her feelings until they face the demon Shin. In another flashback, we see Logurvia's officials discussing the situation with the hero's party, as an official urges them to retaliate against the demon army before they run out of food and fuel. Ritz interjects, noting that the demon army is in the same boat, and suggests striking the fortress where they store their food. Ritz's master agrees, and assigns the heroes party to defend the castle while they take on the army. We learn that Shin was disguised as her master the whole time, and he defeats her, but Red comes to her rescue, after suspecting that there was something off about the master. He helps her hold off against Shin until Rudy arrives, slicing off his arms, and stabbing him through the chest. Ritz is traumatized by the experience, and she stays out of war councils for several days, so Red checks up on her. She reveals that she's afraid of losing another person, and failing her people, as she grieves for her master and the fallen soldiers. Red tells her to stay strong, because she's the captain of the Royal Guard, encouraging her to join their quest, because the war can only be won if Lagurvia has the will to fight. We learn that Red helped Ritz recover, and they were able to vanquish the Demon Lord's army. Ritz asks Red to let her work at his apothecary, and he tries to refuse, but she says she can handle the store while he's away, so he reluctantly agrees. She asks him if he has original concoctions that will make his apothecary popular, so he shows her a potion that can increase the volume of other potions. But she explains how a potion like that would crash market prices, noting how he doesn't know everything. He tells her about another potion, which is a less addictive painkiller, but she tells him that he will require the Zoltan Council's approval before he sells it. He realizes that her knowledge would be helpful for his business, so he asks her to stop by his shop whenever she has the time, but she tells him that they will never be apart. They enjoy dinner together, as Ritz tells Red that she will buy a bathtub and a bed, telling him that she's going to move in, and this leaves him in shock. Meanwhile, Ares introduces the assassin Tisei to the heroes party, as he explains that she's a talented assassin and will make a good replacement for Gideon. Rudy tells Tisei that she will be under her command, informing Tisei about their mission to hunt for a weapon, which the previous Demon Lord left behind. Red and Ritz have breakfast together, and discuss their work for the day, planning to get the medicine approved. Ritz suggests a reasonable salary for her services, and Red agrees to her suggestion. They head to a furniture store owned by a goblin called Stormy, who asks Ritz why she's with Red. So she tells him that she's moving in with Red, causing him to become surprised, and he congratulates Red, thinking they're in a relationship. Red asks Stormy why he's being so nice to her, so Stormy tells him that it's because, unlike him, she's a customer who pays the full price. Ritz buys the bed, and asks to have it delivered to the shop, as they head over to their next destination. Ritz mentions how Stormy's shop always has good items, and Red explains that it's because he has leveled up his craftsman blessing. We learn that blessings are granted by the almighty Demis, given randomly regardless of a person's status, and the only way to level up a blessing is to kill another person who also has a blessing, turning the world into a violent place. Red notices Tana being bullied by another kid, so he interrupts the fight. The bully throws a rock at him, but he deflects it, telling the bully to use his skills to fight monsters. The kid runs away, and Red goes to check up on Tana's injuries. Tanta introduces Red to his friend named Al, who Red notices is also injured. Ritz arrives, and Tanta is surprised to see her with Red, so she tells him they are good friends, and that she started living with him, which Tana finds even more surprising. Red asks Tanta why he was fighting with the older kid, so he tells Red that the bully, Adam, started the fight. Al tells them that Adam wasn't always violent, but he has become hot-headed lately, and Red thinks that it's because he just discovered his blessing. Red explains that blessings affect someone's personality, and Adam has the Bar Brawler blessing, which focuses on fighting with whatever's at hand. Red adds that Adam has a high affinity for his blessing, making him a natural-born brawler, and Red reveals that certain blessings steer people to do bad things, which explains why Adam is instinctively using makeshift weapons. Al is terrified after hearing this, saying he doesn't want a blessing. Red asks him about it, so he reveals that he's a weapons master, which makes him skilled at mastering weapons. Al is afraid that he will turn out like Adam, so Ritz and Red comfort him, telling him that while a blessing will determine what kind of life he will lead, it's only a part of him, and doesn't change who he is as a person. Red assures him that he can learn to control his blessing, and use it to overcome his fears. Ritz and Red head off to get their new medicine approved, and Red tells her that once they change the shop's name, he won't let her off easily, so she teases him, wondering if he wants her to stay with him forever. At the office, their proposal is instantly rejected by an official named Dan, who kicks them out of the room. So Ritz goes to another official, who tells her that they've come at a bad time, since a remedy that they approved a month ago is being misused as an illegal narcotic. He tells them that this ordeal has put a lot of stress on Dan, who has been left to deal with the angry townsfolk. The man tells Ritz that he'll personally approve their remedy, knowing she can be trusted. Red apologizes to Ritz for making her do all the hard work for him, but she explains that she's happy to help him. They return home, and discuss ways to make the apothecary more popular. Ritz suggests that Red should come up with a hit remedy, which customers will want to buy at all costs. She enjoys his cooking, and tells him to serve food with his concoctions, which gives him an idea. He uses his skills to mix remedies with food items, to make them more delicious, and the experiment is a success. Ritz gets to work, handing out samples to the villagers, and it attracts more customers to Red's shop. We see a woman buying medicinal cookies for her daughter, and Red's apothecary finally takes off. We cut to the heroes' party, where we see the fighter named Danon arguing with Ares over his poor decisions, which have stalled their progress in finding the weapon. Danon thinks that banishing Gideon was a mistake, since they never had issues while he was their guide. Danon asks for Rudy's permission to search for him, and she allows it, telling Danon to look for him. Danon talks to the cleric Theodora about their suspicions regarding Ares, and how their friend Yara left the party because of his decision to banish Gideon. Danon says that even though he criticized Gideon for his mistakes, he never thought of him as a liability and is determined to find him. Red thinks about how he never imagined that he'd be working at an apothecary with a princess, and they go back inside, as a group of adventurers enter the shop, surprised to see that Ritz is working there. She tells them that she has quit adventuring and moved in with Red, which surprises them even more, and one of them leaves the shop devastated, so they follow her out. Ritz tells Red that she wants to drink mead, and she leaves to buy it, right before Albert visits the shop, wondering if Red killed the owlbear. He denies it, but Albert knows that the wound on the owlbear was from a blunt weapon, which is similar to Red's bronze sword. But Red continues to deny it, so Albert becomes upset, and he points his sword at Red, telling him that he was going to ask him to join their party, but before he can say anything else, Ritz attacks him, threatening to kill him if he hurts Red. Red calms her down, explaining the situation, and she tells Albert to leave immediately. She expresses her annoyance at Albert's attitude, thinking they should have killed him, but Red explains that killing Albert would be a bad idea since he's the only B-rank adventurer in Zoltan. Ritz wonders why he didn't defend himself, so he tells her that he knew Albert wouldn't go too far and thanks her for protecting him. They enjoy dinner together as they celebrate the success of the apothecary when Ritz reminds Red that they need a bathtub. He says that he has already asked Gons to build one for them, and Ritz says she wants the bathtub to be big enough for two, referring to its size, because she enjoys relaxing in a big tub, but Red gets flustered at the idea. He suggests that they should go to the sauna on their off days, and she agrees to this. We see Red sitting in the sauna, having an endurance contest with Stormy and Gons. They tease Red about his relationship with Ritz, but he tells them to mind their own business. After some time, Red gets up and makes the room steamier, causing Gons to pass out. So they take him outside, where his sister Nao scolds him for exerting himself too much. Stormy notices the lack of customers, and Neff, the sauna's owner, tells them that he has gotten fewer customers after a new bathhouse opened up. Nao gets annoyed at Neff for giving up so fast, telling him that she will keep visiting as long as he serves them drinks. She asks him to give her beer, and the others join in as well. After going back home, Nao and Ritz think of ways to get more customers to Neff's sauna, while Red serves them herbal tea to reduce their fatigue, and he suddenly comes up with an idea. He visits Neff and offers him a sack, explaining that he can use it to add a stream therapy option at his sauna. Neff asks what stream therapy is, and Red explains that it's a technique used by a race of wild elves, where they make an herbal soup and bathe in it to help with their fatigue. He offers to provide Neff with a steady supply of herbal sacks if their idea takes off, and Neff is thankful to them for helping him out. He agrees to continue running his business, letting them relax at the sauna for free. Nao and Ritz suddenly walk in, so he tries to leave, but Ritz stops him and makes him stay with them. They sit together, as Nao tells Ritz that she was smart to pick Red over the other men in the village, and the two discuss how helpful and talented Red is, but he faints from the embarrassment. Neff's sauna becomes popular among the locals once again, and as they all head back home, Ritz tells Red how she never imagined life in Zoltan to be so fulfilling. She tells Red that she wanted to drink mead, because in Lagurvia's tradition, when a couple takes a month off from work after getting married, they enjoy mead together. We cut to Rudy's party, where Ares is annoyed that two people left the party, as Tisei tells them she has set up camp. She sits next to Theodora, who asks her if she's disappointed in the party. Tisei says she can't complain, and Theodora tells her that their party didn't have any non-combat conflicts until Gideon left. She wonders why he left, and wishes for him to come back. An official from the Adventurers Guild named Galantine visits the shop, and asks to speak with Ritz. Red tells him that he can speak with her once they are done opening up for the day, but Galantine says he should ask her. He says he knows her well, so Galantine agrees to wait for her outside, as Red goes to ask her, and she says that they should make the officials wait longer. Ritz heads outside to meet the officials, just as a member of the Thieves Guild sneaks in, and offers Red a valuable elven coin, in exchange for letting Ritz go. But he declines, saying she's priceless, and he wouldn't let her go even if they offered him 1,000 elven coins. The man realizes Red's sincerity, but keeps the offer open in case he changes his mind. Ritz also rejects offers by the officials, and tells them that she has signed a lifetime contract with Red, warning them that if they drive Red out, she will leave with him. Red is happy to hear this, and gives her an amber stone bracelet as a gift, telling her to consider it as down payment for her lifetime employment. Ritz teases Red, telling him that a gift like that might give her the wrong idea, which makes him blush, and he says he will buy her a different gemstone of her choice, but she tells him that anything is fine as long as it's a gift from him. Meanwhile, we see two people as they discuss their plans to get Ritz back in the Adventurers Guild, since she's a wild card, and can cause trouble for them if the guild isn't able to keep an eye on her. We see Ritz thinking about how she never imagined being able to live with Red like this, and remembering her time with Red back in the Heroes Party. In a flashback, we see that Lagurvia is struggling to fight back the Demon Lord's army, so they set off for the neighboring Duchy of Sunland to seek help. They have to slip through the Demon Lord's defenses to reach the nation, so Gideon suggests going through the Bewitching Woods, which the demons don't want to enter. Their first stop is a village at the edge of the woods, where they meet Yara, an elf with the blessing to talk to plants, and call upon their aid. Yara explains that people born in her village aren't affected by the magic in the woods, and that she can find her way through the woods simply by listening to the plants. Gideon explains that Yara will act as the key to their strategy, showing how much he trusts her. Gideon's group head into the woods, while Danon and Theodora stay back to protect the villagers, but before setting off, Ares hires mercenaries to gather information about the army's movements. The group makes their way through the woods, and Ritz gets jealous seeing Yara with Gideon, but acts like she doesn't care. Yara walks up to her and suggests that they should bathe together in a nearby river to refresh themselves. Ritz is hesitant at first, but agrees to it, and the two head over to the river. They swim in the river, and Yara asks Ritz if she likes Gideon, saying it couldn't be more obvious, and that Gideon probably likes her too. She advises Ritz to be more playful with Gideon, instead of getting angry out of embarrassment. So Ritz asks her if she feels the same way, but Yara denies it, saying she doesn't fall for humans, since they live shorter lives than elves. Yara tells Ritz that she sees Gideon as a close friend, and that she wishes for him to live a simple life for himself, since he's always pushing himself for the party. She tells Ritz that she could be a good fit for Gideon, and that they could support each other. Ritz admits that he carries most of the weight, but Yara tells her it's okay. The group continues their journey, but they run into scouts from the Demon Lord's army, who are searching for them after being tipped off by the mercenaries that Ares hired. Gideon suggests that he and Yara distract them, while Ritz and Rudy break through their lines. They succeed in defeating the scouts, after Rudy slays all of them. Gideon reunites with the party, and Rudy hugs him, apologizing for putting him in danger. After getting help from the neighboring nation, Ritz stays back in Lagurvia to help rebuild it, deciding to not join the heroes' party, since she didn't want to come between Rudy and Gideon. Back in the present, Ritz feels thankful to have reunited with him, and to live a simple life in Zoltan. She heads out to make a delivery, and runs into an adventurer, who threatens to tell the kingdom that she's living with a man. Ritz isn't bothered by his threats, and says that she prefers this life over her previous one, as she goes back to finish her delivery. We see Rudy wide awake in her tent, thinking about the time when she found out that her brother left the party. Ares lies to her, saying Gideon left on his own, and that he tried to stop him. Rudy senses that he's lying, and she attacks him instinctively, before coming back to her senses. She heals him, but we see that she feels there is a hole left behind, ever since her brother left the party. Red visits Dr. Newman to deliver his order, but they are distracted by commotion outside, which they investigate to find an unconscious man in his home, due to his elevated heart rate. Red suggests giving him an antidote that he made, and when Dr. Newman asks him how he knows about it, Red explains that he maxed out his first aid skill, which allows him to relieve symptoms without knowing the cause. After curing the man, Dr. Newman explains that he's suffered from an overdose of the recently approved drug, and warns Red that more cases like this might appear, requesting him to stock up on the necessary medicine. Ritz scolds Red for coming home late, but forgives him when he makes lunch for her, and tells her what happened. She thinks the drug is dangerous, but Red tells her it isn't their job to track down the seller, and instead suggests they should go to the river to relax. The two enjoy their time swimming, and eating barbecue while being awkward at times, but they both laugh at their own embarrassment, and Red points out the irony, since she was very forward with him at the start. Ritz tells him she was always scared he would reject her, but Red reassures her, and she kisses him, saying that she wants to get much closer to him. We see Rudy's party heading into the desert, and Ares reveals that they can find the weapon they're searching for in old ruins. The group begins resupplying to prepare for the journey, while Tisei collects water for everyone. Rudy walks over, and Tisei asks her if she ever sleeps, since she always finds her awake when she peers into her tent at night. She explains that her blessing erases her need for sleep and food, and suppresses her ability to feel emotions or physical discomfort as a sandstorm blows, but it doesn't have any effect on her. We see Ritz and Red get back to work, as Ritz asks what they will do about the drug, since she heard that it makes users feel like a new person. An injured man barges into the apothecary, asking for help, as Ritz goes out to see what caused this, and finds a member of the Thieves Guild attacking civilians. The man acts strange, and attacks her while other men surround her to prevent her from escaping, but she easily fights them off, and before she can do anything else, Albert appears, and shoots all of them. She asks why he killed them, but Albert doesn't care, telling her she should save the few that are still breathing, and taunts her for not bringing her fiancé. She raises her weapons at him, but drops them, saying it's a ritual she does to quash the urge that her blessing gives to kill him, which terrifies him. She goes back, and tells Red what happened, so he asks her what she wants to do, and she tells him she just wants to keep sleeping on his lap, as Tant and Al walk towards the shop. They invite them over for lunch, where Al talks about how he was touched by his blessing, which made him feel anxious. Red tells him it must be because he hasn't picked a weapon to master yet, and Al wonders if he can still be the same person after that. Red explains that without the skills of his blessing, he will have a tough time and remain anxious, which disappoints him. Ritz asks Al what he wants to do when he grows up, and he says he wants to help his father with his job. So Red suggests that he could master using a knife and slash ropes that tie the cargo together to make unloading easier, but advises him to choose his weapon carefully. The kids thank them for their help, and go back home, right when a woman named Rhea visits the shop to apologize on behalf of Albert's party. Ritz reassures her, wondering what Albert is up to, and Rhea mentions that he's burdening his party by taking on extra guild quests to make up for lazy summer months. She explains that Albert doesn't understand the others' feelings, since his champion blessing urges him to perform great feats, but since he didn't harness his powers fully, he ended up in Zoltan, which he hates. Red assures her that Albert won't leave Zoltan, since he's trying to be its champion, and she's relieved to hear this. We see Danon at a bar, drinking in frustration, when a man walks up to him and offers to search for Gideon with him. A storm brews outside, as the couple enjoy honey and milk, which Red used to make for Rudy, and he reminisces about his time with her when they were younger. We see a younger Red looking at the other kids hugging their moms when the thunder scares them, so he goes and asks Rudy to hold his hand, saying he's scared of the thunder. When she does, he tells her he wasn't actually scared and only wanted to hold her hand for no reason. Rudy tells him she loves him, and he returns her feelings, saying she made his day. Rudy asks him if she will stay with her forever, but Red explains that he can't, since he will leave to become a knight, so he can adventure with her. He promises to visit her on off days, wondering if there's anything she would like, and she says warm milk and honey. Red hears a knock on his door, and he opens it to find Dr. Newman carrying an unconscious Al. Dr. Newman tells them that Al's wounds have several stone fragments, and Red wonders what he was doing outside during the storm. Al wakes up in shock and reveals that Adam attacked him and his parents with an axe, so they rush to his house, where they find Al's parents unconscious. Red is concerned that this attack by Adam will only lead to more trouble, since his father Mullen is the captain of the guard. Adam disappears after the attack, and the townsfolk are outraged, demanding justice, but the town guard refuses to respond. Al's parents are seen as the symbol of protest, and they entrust Al to Red and Ritz. While eating breakfast, Al asks Ritz to teach him how to wield a sword, and they train together outside. Red praises her, but she tells him that it's all because Al's blessing gives him the confidence to wield the weapon. Ritz worries that she won't be a good teacher, as she hopes to teach Al the things her master taught her, but Red tells her she'll do a great job. They see Nail and Gons rushing over to their house, telling them that the town guard had taken Tanta away while he was playing in the neighborhood. They visit Galantine to request a joint inquiry with the town guard, and he agrees to help them, since this will put Ritz in debt. Galantine says he doesn't like seeing youngsters like Nao sad, and gives them a letter to deliver to the captain, who owes him a favor. They go to Captain Mullen's headquarters, where he explains that he gave the order to bring in Tanta for questioning, but didn't think they would tie him up. He releases Tanta, and apologizes for the mistreatment. Red asks Mullen why he did that, so he tells Red that Adam may have been killed by a South Marsh resident, since tensions between the residents and the town guard have grown after the recent attacks. Mullen explains how the people think that Adam wasn't the one to attack Al and his parents, but Al insists that he saw him. Mullen tells him he can't confirm his statement, since a lot of the facts about the latest attack puzzle him. Tanta agrees with him, saying he doesn't think Adam did it, since he apologized to him after hitting him, and explained that his dream was to join the town guard, whose job is to protect people rather than hurt them. Mullen asks to speak with Red and Ritz alone, and requests them for their help, so Red asks if there was any sign of Adam using the new narcotic, which he denies, saying he taught Adam to stay away from those things. Red tells him that there are similarities in the attack, and Mullen says there's no way to prove it, since no one has the appraisal skill, and that the drug might give people new blessings. We see Al alone at the apothecary, when a strange man comes to visit him. Red returns home, while Ritz stays back to handle other matters for Galantine, and he offers to train Al in her place. They train for a while, until they're tired, and Al asks Red why he's a D-rank adventurer if he's so good. Red tells him that being good at something doesn't mean you have to rise in stature, but he's happy to see Al accept his blessing, and become determined to go down in history as a great person. Al tells Red that he got a sword from someone connected to Big Hawks, the head of the Thieves Guild, and he thought he could become a champion like Ritz if he had it, but he doesn't know if they were his own thoughts or his blessing. Red tells him Theodora's advice to talk to his own weapon, and see if it tells him to cut down his enemies or protect people, and Al listens to him. We see Ritz going after a man suspected of selling drugs, but he explodes before she can capture him. Other men come after her, but she's saved by a hooded man, who reveals himself to be Danon. She asks him what he's doing there, and he tells her that he was looking for Gideon, but when he realized that he had found a place to call home, he decided to leave him be. Danon brings her attention to a different issue, related to the men they just fought, who he reveals are stalker demons, telling Ritz that he would like to exchange information with her. Ritz agrees, and heads back home, while Danon looks at her with a sinister expression. She enters the shop, where Red tells her about the sword which she detects a locator spell on, and Red thinks about why the gifter wants to keep track of Al. Ritz hugs Red, and wonders how long they will be able to live together, considering the events she just faced. The next day, Ritz and Red take Al to a trusty swordsmith in Zoltan. Red hears protests outside, and discovers that Big Hawks has been paying people to show up at protests, and keep the town guard busy to investigate the attacks. We see Rudy's group fighting a gargantuan demon in the ruins, as Rudy orders Tisei to look for the weapon while they distract it, and Rudy manages to defeat it. Rudy turns to Ares, telling him that while she provided cover for her brother, she won't be doing that for Ares, since he can protect himself. Ares remembers how easy it was to cast spells with Gideon, but brushes off the thought, and instead thinks it's because the other members left. Tisei returns to report her findings, and they discover that the previous demon lord had an airship, which they board immediately. Tisei asks Rudy if she wants to go anywhere, and Rudy explains that she does, but she needs to focus on finishing her duties as the hero. Ritz and Red sleep together on their new double bed, but decide not to get too intimate for Al's sake. Ritz goes out the next morning with Al's weapon to lure Big Hawks' men, using the locator spell, but as she fights them off, she discovers that they are axe demons. The man who gave him the weapon visits Al at the apothecary, and takes him to Big Hawks, who plans to make him the hero of South Marsh. Big Hawks introduces himself to Al, and tells him how he gains strength by killing anyone who came in his path, making the council powerless against him, and he wants more power, which is why he developed the drug that's become widespread in Zoltan. He tells him that the drug is called the Devil's Blessing, and is made from the hearts of 50 axe demons. He explains that with only one blessing, people are restricted to fulfilling that one role and end up in despair when it isn't a role they like, but with the devil's blessing, people will be able to lead a new life. Big Hawks plans to use Al to win favor among the people and become their leader, and he calls in Adam, who admits that he took the drug to get stronger. We see a crowd of people waiting outside, as Big Hawks comes out with Al, talking about the injustices they have to face as outsiders in Zoltan. He brings up the incident that occurred at Al's house, and further riles up the people by saying that Adam didn't receive punishment, because he's the captain's son. He brings Adam outside, encouraging Al to take revenge on him and be the spark that ignites the fire that will forge a new Zoltan, but Al hesitates when he realizes he has to kill Adam. Big Hawks tries to manipulate him by telling him that while he did give Adam the drug, he still tried to kill his parents of his own will, and since Adam has 2 blessings, slaying him will make Al far stronger. Al takes the weapon, but instead of killing Adam, he cuts his ropes to free him, saying his weapon doesn't want him to kill. Big Hawks is disappointed in Al, and offers an axe to Adam, since the devil's blessing gives him a murderous urge when he sees an axe, but before Adam can take it, a hooded man disarms him and reveals himself to be Red. He takes Al and Adam, and escapes to a safer area, where he gives Adam medicine that helps suppress urges from blessings. A man named Ben meets up with them, and takes the kids away to work on their plan. Red sees Big Hawks' men, and he confronts them. Albert charges at him, but Red easily deflects his attack, as he realizes that Red was hiding his true strength. Red asks Big Hawks why he's there, and he reveals that he's a demon who possessed Big Hawks after making a deal with him. But Red tells him he will have a hard time in Zoltan, since it's a lazy town where people take years to get to high positions. The demon agrees, saying this is why he used Albert, who is also an outsider, since he's strong-willed and has a darkness in him. Albert expresses his frustrations at Zoltan's slow-paced life, saying that if he dies there, his life would be a waste. He thinks that while he did forge a contract with a demon, he won't be taking part in evil schemes, but Red points out that his actions have already led to people dying. Albert says that it was a necessary sacrifice to fulfill his goal, which is to unite all of Zoltan so it can join the fight against the Demon Lord, by becoming a military power that will fight under the hero's banner. He asks Red to join him, since he has what it takes to become a hero, saying his decision will decide the fate of Zoltan. But the town guard surrounds him, and Red tells him that he's just an apothecary owner, and that it's up to the town guard to arrest him. Albert refuses to go down in history as a criminal, and asks Red to fight him, so that he can be slain by a hero, as he charges at him. Red dodges and cuts off his hand, telling him that he has the potential to be Zoltan's savior, but he suffers due to his desire to become a hero. We see Al and Adam rushing to a crowd, and Ben uses magic to make the children levitate. Al tells everyone what happened, saying he forgives Adam and wants to be friends with him again. The townsfolk drop their weapons, since they have no reason to be angry if Al has forgiven Adam, and they all head home. Ritz and Red relax in their new bathtub, and Ritz asks him why he didn't choose to go with Albert, since he had the chance to rejoin the heroes party. He hugs her, telling her that he wants nothing more than to be with her, because he loves her, which makes Ritz blush. We see Ben visit Big Hawks, but he realizes that Ben is actually Shen. Shen calls him Belial, and tells him the dangers of peddling the devil's blessing among humans, since it can unleash their true power. Belial says he did it to destroy the Demon Lord's plan, revoking his contract with Big Hawks, and runs to Albert's cell to forge a contract with him, and escape to the heroes' party, where Rudy confronts them. Al leaves on his first adventure, which makes Red think of him as a son, and Ritz agrees, saying kids aren't so bad. Ares is devastated to see Rudy leave him behind, while Theodora tells him the hero can manage without him, as she goes inside the tent and sees that Rudy left her hero badge behind. Shin, still disguised as Ben, reports the completion of his quests to Megria, which qualifies him as a B-rank adventurer, and we learn that he's working on resolving the drug case. We learn that Tisei and Rudy are heading to Zoltan to find an alchemist, after hearing out Belial and trying the drug to suppress her blessing. Rudy asks Tisei to treat her as a commoner there, which makes her nervous, even though she doesn't show it. Red is bored at his shop due to the lack of customers, and considers selling an item that will make customers visit his shop in the cold. Ritz tells him that people in Lagurvia used hand warmers, which gives him the idea to develop it using his own formula. He hands out samples around town, and they are an instant hit, but he realizes he forgot to save one for himself on his way back home. He runs into Ritz, and she teases him a little, and shares her hand warmer that she saved as it starts snowing. They cuddle on a bench nearby, and she asks him why he keeps looking at her, when he can enjoy the snow. So he tells her that this is the first time he gets to see her in the snow, and the two continue to flirt and kiss while no one is around. Rudy and Tisei change their clothes to blend in with the townsfolk, and decide not to call each other by their real names. They pass a bridge, where an arrogant knight named Otto blocks everyone's path, unless they pay him 100 perils. So Rudy throws him in the river, and continues onward, while Tisei worries that people will discover her identity. Red crosses the same bridge later, and finds a naked Otto who tries to take his money to buy new clothes and armor, but is once again thrown into the river. Rudy brings a slain monster to the gate, saying that it would have caused trouble later on, as Tisei continues to stress out at her impulsive behavior, which could end up revealing her identity. Red walks by the gate later, and heads over to a food stall, where Tisei joins him. Red analyzes Tisei's mannerisms, and deduces that she must be an assassin, since she has good weapons, and conceals herself like a pro. Tisei also analyzes Red, and sees that he has suffered plenty of injuries, deducing that he's a pro who has seen his fair share of battles. The two look at each other suspiciously, but say nothing, and decide to take food back home. Tisei heads over to the inn, and warns Rudy of the man she encountered, telling her to be careful, since he could cause them trouble. Rudy inquires about him, and Tisei tells her that he was able to notice her concealed weapons and armor, indicating he's among the top adventurers in Zoltan, who might have ulterior motives for staying in that quiet city. Rudy says that the title is held by a man named Ben, but Tisei tells her that looks can be deceiving, since that man had the bearings of a trained knight. She asks Rudy if they should work with him or against him, and Rudy says that they can't work with him, since the alchemist she seeks is being held in prison, so Tisei suggests they should carefully plan the next steps to find the alchemist. Rudy tries to come up with a successful prison break plan, by thinking the way Gideon does, and wishes to see him again. A fairy visits the apothecary, and urgently takes Red and Ritz to a patient, who turns out to be a water elemental. Red checks her symptoms, and tells her that she's under a powerful curse, which is depleting her spiritual energy. He gives her medication to help her recover, and Ritz suggests that the cold outbreak in the town might be linked with the same curse. Rudy finds the alchemist Godwin, and asks him to make her more devil's blessings. He looks at Rudy, and becomes scared of the death stare that she gives him, and agrees to do anything for her. She takes Godwin captive, and asks Tisei to suggest an apothecary, where she can find medicine to heal his wounds. Tisei tells Rudy about the famous apothecary that makes Loggervian hand warmers, and the two decide to go there. Rudy arrives at the shop, and they are surprised to see each other, but Rudy's shock turns into happiness, and she goes to hug her brother. Gons and Tisei are surprised to learn that Rudy and Red are related, and Tisei asks if it's okay to let Gons leave after what he witnessed, but Red assures her that he's trustworthy. Tisei introduces herself to Red, and he realizes that she's his replacement in the party. She asks him if he lives with someone, and he tells them about Ritz. He turns to Rudy, and tells her the real reason why he left, and apologizes for his sudden disappearance. She understands, and tells him she will take care of Ares, so that he can join the party again, since it's incomplete without him due to Ares' incompetency. Red politely declines her offer, and tells her he has found a reason to stay in Zoltan, which she understands, and decides to move to the town to be with him. Ritz returns with supplies, but is surprised when she sees Rudy. Red asks her why she came to Zoltan, and she tells him that she came looking for him, since they can't defeat the demon lord without him. Ritz asks Red what he will do, and he reassures her that he will stay and run the shop with her, but she wonders if it's okay to leave Rudy. Rudy gets up to head back to the inn, and Red tells her he will always be there for her. On her way back, Rudy feels a jolt due to her blessing, since she forgot to suppress her emotions while around Red, so she takes the drug to weaken herself further. Ritz questions Red's decision, and tells him that Rudy needs him, so he assures her that he will think about it, and talk with Rudy again another time. Tisei goes to check up on Godwin, and he tells her they need to leave town fast, or he will get caught and be executed. She conveys this to Rudy, who tells her that she will stay for a week to search for an elven ruin, and leave afterwards. Tisei suddenly feels intimidated by Rudy when she starts walking over to her, so she immediately pulls out her weapon to defend herself. Rudy apologizes for scaring her, and tells her she meant no harm, which makes Tisei realize that she overreacted. Tisei sees Rudy in a new light, as she understands that while Rudy is the hero with a huge responsibility, she's still a girl who has been left isolated due to her lack of communication skills. Tisei brings out her pet spider to let Rudy touch him, and the two girls become friends. We see Shin trying to locate elf ruins on a map, and check his crystal to find that the curse he put on the water elemental was lifted. Rudy welcomes customers to the shop, but they run away when they see her dead stare. So Red tells her she should try to smile more, and asks if she would like to join him for a trip around town. Rudy agrees, and Tisei offers to stay back and look after the shop with Ritz. Red takes her to the sauna, where she quickly becomes popular for her eccentric behavior. She apologizes to Red for drawing attention to herself, but he tells her it's okay, since he's happy to introduce her to people as his pride and joy, which makes Rudy happy, and she wishes for this day to last forever. We see the rest of Rudy's party heading over to Zoltan with the help of Albert, who Theodora offers to buy a prosthetic hand for. Albert tells her about the man who cut his hand off, saying he doesn't understand why he doesn't want to be a champion when he's so powerful, and Theodora questions whether they really need to follow the path their blessings set for them when they were given free will. Rudy asks to take a bath with Ritz, and Tisei offers to join them since she likes to keep records of the different places she has bathed in. She watches Rudy and Ritz closely as they talk about their experiences with Red. Rudy tells her that she was weak as a kid, and recounts the first time she battled. We see a young Rudy trying to protect another child from an owlbear while struggling to defend herself. She thinks about how she'll have to suffer more pain later on, even if she survives this encounter, since her blessing urges her to put her life on the line to save others, even though they despise her for being creepy. Rudy thinks about her brother, and is determined to survive since she wants to be with him. She calls for him, and Red instantly appears to cut the owlbear in half. Rudy tells Ritz how her brother always stayed by her side when she was in pain, and cried for her, which made her happy. She admits that she no longer enjoys baths and food due to her blessing, but she still remembers how they used to make her feel. She continues saying that she envies her for being able to cry and laugh freely, and she starts crying, saying she never wanted to be a hero, and that she only wished to be free. Tisei realizes that Rudy has only been holding on to the past, since her blessing has made her suffer, and she finds a new determination to help Rudy. Red thanks Tisei for being Rudy's friend, saying he's aware of the changes that Rudy has been going through due to her blessing, and decides to speak with Godwin to learn more about the potential effects that the devil's blessing may have on her. Tisei tells him she will stop by the port to buy the equipment Godwin needs to make more concoctions, and the group prepares to head out to rent drakes for their trip. Red runs into Danon at the port, and the two catch up over tea. We see Theodora and Albert's group searching around the port to gather information, while Ares goes off to do his own thing. When they notice Red and Danon together, they conceal themselves and follow them around. Danon tells Red that the party was struggling without him, so he came looking for him, but Red reaffirms his wishes to stay in Zoltan. Danon considers this, and says that he'll stay in town a little longer to see how Red is doing, before he decides what to do. Red tells him that Rudy is also in town, and explains her situation to him, which Danon is surprised to hear, and he becomes determined to work with Red to save her. They leave together to discuss their plans elsewhere, and talk about how Danon lost his hand. We see another Danon meet Ares at the inn, and tell him everything he knows about Gideon's whereabouts. Ares is annoyed to hear about Red living peacefully with a princess, and demands to know where his apothecary is, so he can tell him to stay out of Rudy's life. He arrives at Red's shop, and destroys everything in sight out of anger, while imposter Danon tells him he's wasting his time. Red learns from the real Danon that Shin is alive, because he was attacked by him, and lost his arm when a creature bit it off. They spot a drake in the sky, carrying Ares and imposter Danon to the mountains, where Rudy went to explore, so they decide to follow it. Red catches up with Ritz first, and tells her what Danon told him, and she apologizes for not telling him that she met Danon before, but Red realizes that the one she met was actually Shin. They decide to fight, and end it once and for all, so that they can continue living a peaceful life. Red rushes over to the ruins, and navigates his way through them easily, until he finds the room where Godwin is staying, and tells him to call for Rudy. Godwin refuses, since Rudy terrifies him, so Red twists his arm, which makes him yell in pain, and she immediately bursts into the room. Red tells her that he's been working on a concoction that will help suppress her blessing, but she doesn't understand his motives, since she always thought that he wanted to become a knight and save the world. Red corrects her, saying his main goal is to protect her, since she's precious to him, and he doesn't mind if she decides to give up on being a hero. Rudy wonders if it's okay for her to do what she wants, so Red tells her that her life is her own to live, and she hugs him, telling him she loves him, and that he's the best big brother. We see Shin and Ares searching for Rudy on the mountain, as Shin tells Ares about the elven ruins that lie there. The real Danon reunites with Theodora, and hops on her drake to catch up with the others. Rudy's group reunites with Tisei, and Red suggests that they should talk to Godwin about the drug, when Rudy explains that while the devil's blessing's curse didn't affect her, it awakened a nameless blessing within her. Godwin is puzzled to hear this, but tells them that since the blessing doesn't give Rudy any murderous urges, it shouldn't cause too much trouble. Tisei suddenly senses something approaching them, which Red recognizes as plague eyes, which will multiply and reveal their position when attacked. Rudy destroys all of them with a spell, and runs in the direction that they came from. Red runs after her, and they find a completely deranged Ares waiting for them in a chamber. He demands Rudy to come with him, and fight the demon lord alone, but Rudy declines, and explains her decision to stay with Red. Ares attacks Red after hearing this, so Rudy stabs him, and tells him to heal himself since she avoided his vitals, and asserts her decision to quit being a hero. Shin arrives, and offers to help him, but Ares realizes that he's a demon with no blessing. Shin suggests teaming up with him, and tells him that a relic of the first hero lies in the ruins, which will make the hero come back to his side. Ares is determined to find the relic, since he believes it's his life's purpose to fight alongside Rudy from the moment he met her. Red tells the others about their encounter with Ares, and they realize that the plague eyes were his doing. Tisei detects Ares' movements, and informs them that he has proceeded to the lower levels of the ruins with another person, which they suspect is Shin. They decide to confront him to stop his plans, and Godwin has no choice but to follow them to stay safe. Theodora takes Danon to the ruins, and tells him that she brought him there, because she wants him to be with her no matter what choices they make. Danon doesn't understand her words, but tells her to do what she wants, saying he will do as he pleases. He proceeds to force his way through the ruins, and he reaches Ares. Shin immediately attacks him, but when Danon easily overpowers him with his newfound strength, he desperately asks Ares to help him. Ares hesitates for a bit, before casting a spell to distract Danon, as Shin stabs him, and uses a spell to blast him from within. Danon manages to withstand it and continues fighting Shin, who has revealed his true form, until he inevitably collapses. Ares notes how calm he feels for betraying his ally, but realizes that he felt the same way when manipulating Gideon to leave, so he could take his place. He follows Shin deeper into the ruins, and ends up in a room, where they find the true holy swords, which they decide to call the Sacred Avengers. Shin explains that the sword that the hero uses is only a copy of it, and that her blessing is also a copy of the hero's will. He tells Ares that they will have to give Rudy the Sacred Avenger, and take away the one thing that drives her desire to be a normal person, which Ares realizes is her brother. Red's group navigates through the ruins, as Rudy gives him his favorite sword. They head into a room where they encounter Shin, disguised as the captain of the royal guard. They attack him, but struggle as Ares uses fire magic to drive them away, while Rudy shields them, and tells Ares she will forgive him if he surrenders. Ares remains stubborn, and the two use powerful attacks to overpower the other. Albert and Theodora find Danon, and give him medicine to help heal his wounds, and save his life. Rudy continues to fight Ares, who tries to make Rudy touch the Sacred Avenger, but she creates a strong whirlwind, which breaks everyone's weapons. Theodora suddenly jumps in, chaining Ritz near a monster, and she starts fighting Rudy, saying she needs to be sacrificed for the sake of the world. Rudy insists that she doesn't want to be the hero anymore, but Theodora tells her that countless lives will be lost if she doesn't fulfill her role. She tells her that while Gideon is strong, he's incapable of defeating the Demon Lord without Rudy's help. Ritz breaks free, and asks Theodora why she thought it was okay to place her life in the hero's hands. Theodora reminds her that her village was saved because of the hero, but Ritz corrects her, saying it was their party that saved her homeland. She argues that people are more than their blessings, and that they saved Lagurvia with their own beliefs. Theodora says that she shouldn't question the Almighty's will, but Ritz says that she's wrong for putting burdens on unwilling shoulders. Red notices the Drake regaining consciousness, and slays it to save Ritz, but Ares casts a spell to separate them from the others. Rudy jumps in to save them, but fails, and Shin manages to break her sword. Ares celebrates his victory over Red, and goes to fight Tisei, who tells him his views are wrong, and that she's determined to let Rudy live a normal life. Danon sees the iron wall with Red and Ritz, and uses his powers to save them. Red immediately charges at Ares, and with Ritz's help, he avoids his attacks, and cuts his hands off, leaving him to die. Rudy continues to fight Shin, who tells her she doesn't deserve to live a peaceful life, since she's the hero. Hearing this makes her feel a rage inside her, stemming from the nameless blessing, and she attacks Shin relentlessly, unknowingly grabbing a Sacred Avenger, which she uses to slash him down. She joins the others, but instead of helping them, she attacks Red, who is tending to Theodora. Tisei protects Red, and tries to get through to Rudy,